Hey everyone, this is John here from the Splice team. I manage the Sound Doctrine label.
This is Pudge Tribbett. I'm a senior content producer at Splice, and I work with the Soul Surplus team.
Today we're talking about the Parris Bowens Legacy Pack.
He wrote the manual, for a lot of things, as far as modern keyboard playing and, approach to playing aux and stuff like that. Parris was small in stature, but when he began to play music, he was as large as they come.
I really felt like he was a limitless creative in that I never heard the ceiling or the threshold of like where he could end up with an idea. Every week it was just astounding. Like, wow, he can go further and further. It was like a game where he was just outplaying himself.
For what his musical legacy meant, just while he was alive, was just, tremendous. But unfortunate passing was able to really kind of shine a light on about how many people he actually touched, all across the world. I know the world knows him as a musician and a phenomenal keyboard player, one of my all-time favorite keyboard players. But he was a family man, and a comedian at heart.
Great sense of humor, man. Great guy. I know his legacy will live on, honestly.
Yeah. No matter who you were, very skilled as a musician or not, he made you feel valuable. The same way he would approach music as having this giant personality musically, when he met somebody, he made them feel on top of the world.
He usually was the most accomplished and amazing musician in the room at many times in certain instances, but never acted like it. Very humble, always wanting to get to know who someone was, and people felt valued, like Pudge said, whether you were nobody and no one knew you, or, one of the greatest musicians in the world. But everyone in between knew who Parris was, and they felt valued by him. And I'm very gracious to have been, a part of that number and seeing the creativity and his collaboration.
Parris' dad and parents were pastors. In 2003, Parris and I, we began to play together at a church. We just grew together.
This feels like him creating after church, or even when we're all done jamming and we're walking away from the stage, just hearing him still creating on stage and still playing and working out ideas.
What Parris would do during the service would blow you away. But when the service was over is when Parris would unleash. He knew how much we could handle in a church setting. But then when the service was over, it was like, you're not tired yet? We've been here for 3 hours playing music. Now, Parris was very skilled, so he can play any sound you wanted to. But if you left it up to him, he would pick a Rhodes. He would pick a Rhodes and he would play it all day. We would travel to play at Warm Daddy's when Warm Daddy was on Front Street. After service, we would load up my cousin's car. We put all the drums in there, and Parris would load in. This little guy would load in a full Fender Rhodes in the back of in a back of a BMW. You know what I mean? And this was what we did every Sunday.
To be really quite frank, Pudge, Parris, the whole soundcheck and tying them, they really changed gospel music. One, because at that time in the early 2000s, when I was coming up listening to music, neo soul was very important in shifting, music in general, but it actually hadn't made its way over into gospel yet. What soundcheck did, what Pudge and all them did, they brought it to gospel, and then it influenced so many musicians that came out of gospel into other genres, and it's just wild. And Parris was really like a centerpiece of that and a driving force. I would really tell creators to just, have that musical dialogue, be creative, let the sounds push you, and, surprise yourself, make something, really cool with it. And I think that's the greatest thing about Parris. It's a dialogue musically with him. He's just creating, and he just loves the conversation of you creating with him.
Push yourself, and think outside, the normal 4-bar loop or 8-bar loop. I feel like there's a lot of things that are inside of all of us as musicians and producers. And I feel like Parris, the pack that you'll listen to and that you'll be able to hear, you will hear that. You will hear that, wow, like these ideas are limitless, which is literally Parris, you know what I mean? The limitless idea, man. Parris loved his family. You know, he really cherished Dion and Matthew and Patrick. He talked about them all the time because he wasn't shy about his family. He wasn't shy about his love for God, but he wasn't shy about his love for people and music. And I feel like what Parris has been able to do with his short span of 40 years is that he will be a pivotal point for people being influenced to become greater at what they did. You know what I mean? So they can go back and say, I'll never forget in 2021, you know what I mean? All those years ago, I heard this guy named Parris. I didn't even know who he was, but I heard his pack. And I feel like that moment happens, but because we're living in the moment of history, it doesn't really feel like it yet. But I do feel like Parris has always been a pivotal point. His legacy will live on by the lives he continues to touch.
That's the mic drop right there, right?